My name's Gorse and I'm here with Professor John Sturges, and we've developed a module, really a subject for discussion, which is managing sustainability, and something which is pertinent to every organisation in the modern world. It's something which, in my view, is quite difficult to define, but is probably as important as the systems management theories that we saw and operational management approaches that we've seen in the past. But whether you're managing a state, a facility, whether you're a lawyer or whether you're an economist, to approach business in an ethical manner, you've got to be considerate of the environment, the local population, and how we use the value of money and the value of business to make changes that not only take an economy and a group of people forward, but also are considerate of the environment, so that we leave it in a place that it can be used for future generations. Regardless of what your profession is, I believe now that it's something that we all have to consider. And when you're entering into a new project, you're not likely to have all of the answers at your disposal. But one of the things that we've been talking about is how do you manage sustainability, and we've taken it in an initial view from a project management perspective. This project management really, I think you'll probably agree, John, is about exerting some sort of change or management of a process or programs that bring about some change or system. And I think that people have to, when they're going into that, be aware of almost the raw materials they're using, but also probably equally important is the ethical issues and being aware of what the impacts of the activities are. What's your? I know we've recently come to the end of a PhD. What's your opinion on how those companies that were interviewed adopted approaches to managing sustainability, or what's informed your thinking at the moment?
Well, yes, you're right. Project management is a way of managing change. Firms, organisations want to implement something that they see will be more desirable, more efficient for the future, and they do it by using project management. It's the ideal tool for dealing with this sort of situation. And just as in the past, project management's evolved to enable us to take account of risk management. My colleague and I saw it as an important issue for the future, that it becomes able to take on board sustainability issues. How do firms organise their projects to take account of sustainability issues? And that was what we were one of the things we were looking at. And it is a large topic, and inevitably we were looking at industrial organisations. At the end of the project, we come across a lot of impressive examples of how firms are developing a sustainable approach to the things that they do. And yet, looking at the global picture, I've been conscious that, as I've already said, that the world's ecological footprint's going up, the population's going up, the CO2 content in the atmosphere is going up. Why is that? What are the things that are driving that? And the fact of the matter is, you have to step back even further to look at mankind's activities as a whole, and of course that includes feeding this huge population I've talked about of an extra 2 billion people since in the last 20 years or so, which means agriculture now is operating on a bigger scale than ever. And of course the other thing that's happening is these large multinational companies, in 1970 there were just 8,000 large multinational companies in existence on planet Earth. By 2007, I think, there were 63 or 64,000 large corporations in existence. Now, the biggest of these corporations, like ExxonMobil and Royal Dutch Shell and Walmart, have annual budgets larger than the total annual budgets of 180 countries in the world. Only very large countries like America and Germany, Britain, Europe, France and so on have economies that are larger. So these large companies have an enormous amount of power. And what it means is that they can decide to site their manufacturing activities wherever they want on planet Earth. And they can site them to suit where raw materials are available. They can site them where reasonably priced labour is available, cheap labour. They can site them where good transport links exist and all the rest of it. So the result is that a lot of manufacturing has been moved from Europe and America to some extent to places like China and the Far East. Now, the Chinese economy has grown enormously, and so their demand for raw materials has grown enormously. So it's now necessary to transport vast amounts of oil and iron ore and other materials from places like Brazil, South America, Australia, Africa, to China and Japan to supply the blast furnaces and other industrial centres. When they've produced the goods, they've then got to transport millions of tons of goods from China and the Far East to Europe, to South America, to South Africa, to the United States, all over the world. So two industries now have grown enormously: shipping and transport and agriculture. And the project that we did looked only at industry. So one of the reasons why those industrial, one of those ecological impacts have grown more severe, to the point where you think, well, despite all its industry's done, it looks a bit like business as usual. The fact is that these other sectors have grown and expanded without necessarily taking cognizance of sustainability in the way that industry has, and the housing and building industry has, where they're undoubtedly starting to take sustainability on board very seriously. So the conclusion you draw is not that we've had business as usual, but perhaps the picture would be even worse than it is if industry and the housing business hadn't taken on board the sustainability agenda. So there's a real need for everybody. The point about sustainability is, if we each take the view, I can't do anything, it's somebody else's problem, we're done for. We all have to take ownership of it, and we all have to do what we can to contribute.
I think one thing that I'm aware of as well is that with some of these big companies is they've got their account systems where they're actually putting out their value on their efforts towards sustainability. I'm also aware of the power, I suppose, those companies that want to lead their way in sustainability, the power of the media in measuring the success of those companies, and probably in the modern world we have to be aware that social media has a huge impact on whether something is viewed successfully or not. And I can think of a number of research and innovation projects. I mean, the electric car, the Tesla, and the autonomous car seems to be moving at a pace where the systems now that they've developed are more efficient, driving more efficiently than we would, and safer. But one event where recently somebody died in an autonomous car could set the industry back. Whilst that system can improve, and the human ability to drive something is less so, but the impact of media, how that's released, how that's managed, is something that needs to be considered within a sustainability, not to try to avoid the issues of human health or the impact on the planet, but to ensure that where things are going forward in a positive fashion, they're managed and the benefits are also managed. I can also think of some of the projects that we've worked on where people have been given free trials to embed something into a house, some form of energy management system, and that those products might have gone into that property as a gift by some other fund, but people expect those to work, and if they don't function properly, regardless of the fact that you've still as a company offered something that wouldn't have been there had you not had that gift, nobody's paid for, there's an expectation that these things will be successful straight away. So I'm just aware that when people are trying to manage sustainability, there are often a lot of grants, or there are a lot of areas that are quite difficult to move in to manage new processes. Technology that's grant aided won't always be successful. Research and development projects won't always get the success they want. I'm also thinking that where you produce something once in one area with one company, and when you try to produce the same product again, there are a lot of factors that people might not consider. They might think you might be able to reproduce that article with a different workforce and with different technology, and that might not be possible. So one area in the world might not be as capable as doing it in the other area unless they have sufficient skills to deliver those products. So when you're offering products and services that are considered ethical sustainability, you have to manage your workforce, your expectations, the media, and all of the other things in management that you would normally manage. And I think this is a really wide and quite a sensitive area. As soon as you say I'm a sustainability manager, or we have a sustainable product, you then have to manage quite a lot of things and people's expectations to deliver something that incrementally we can go on to reduce the impact on the planet. But I think it's something that we can discuss in more detail, and we can look at all the issues around that. But clearly it is quite a demanding position to take for a corporate organisation or a manager to say they are managing an aspect of sustainability and reducing impact. And we probably should look at some new theories or current thinking on how to do that.
Well, certainly there's a need for education. It's very important that people get the complete picture, and so that they're able to take advantage properly of anything that comes along. If they need to be aware of exactly what it can do and what it can't do, and so that it doesn't fail because it's operated incorrectly. That's for sure. Education is very important, and it's very important for research into all the various aspects of sustainability are pursued, and the results are disseminated, so that everybody becomes aware. There certainly is more awareness these days of sustainability. Whether it's having all of the desirable effects we'd want it to is another question, but there's certainly an increased awareness, and that's important. That's a good thing. It's very important that as a centre of higher education, this message is put across to the students, and that they are caused to think about these issues and to learn how to keep themselves up to date on what the developments are, and not just the positives, but the problems. I always used to tell my students, I know a lot of I know a lot of the questions, I don't know all the answers, but you know, you're the future. You need to know what the questions are. You might be able to come up with some of the answers in the future.
So I think that's a good point to end, is that what we're looking for in terms of somebody who's thinking about sustainability and sustainable management is having an informed view. So making sure we draw on the information, making sure we consider all the systems that can go towards improving the processes, gaining the efficiencies, and also managing expectations, managing the risks, the resources, the people, and using what are the best tools, either management or sustainable tools, to do that. But this is not a stationary subject, it's going to be evolving, so so we are looking for much further reading, deeper reading around the subject, other than just the core issues that we mentioned, to ensure you've got an informed and specific view in the field that you want to take forward, so that you're considerate of the sustainability agenda and how you're taking it forward.